A young man named Zeru lived in a city known as Cairo. He was handsome, charming, and had everything going for him. He worked as an usher at a popular entertainment center where he greeted guests and directed them to their seats. Despite his seemingly perfect life, Zeru couldn't shake this persistent feeling that there was more to life than what he was currently experiencing. This feeling of discontent grew stronger with each passing day, driving a wedge between him and his friends, family, and even his faith. One evening, after a particularly heated argument with his mother over his lack of ambition, Zeru stormed out of his house and found himself wandering aimlessly through the bustling streets of Cairo. As he walked, he came across an old abandoned building, and without any hesitation, he kicked open the door and stepped inside. To his surprise, the interior of the building was surprisingly well maintained, and there was a faint glow emanating from the top floor. Curiosity piqued, Zeru decided to investigate. As he climbed the stairs, the glow became brighter and brighter until he reached the top floor and saw something that left him in awe. There before him was a magnificent garden, unlike any he had ever seen before. The garden was filled with lush vegetation, sparkling fountains, and the sweet aroma of flowers filled the air. In the center of the garden stood a beautiful woman with flowing white robes and a gentle smile on her face. She was surrounded by an ethereal glow that made her seem almost otherworldly. As Zeru stood there mesmerized by the sight before him, the woman turned to him and spoke in a voice that was like music to his ears. She said, "Zeru, my son, why have you come here?" Zeru was taken aback by the woman's words. How did she know his name? And how did she know he was there? Was this a dream or a hallucination? Before he could respond, the woman continued, "I have been waiting for you, Zeru. I have a message from God for you." Zeru's mind was racing. A message from God? What could it possibly be? He had strayed far from his faith and was now being confronted with the possibility that God still had plans for him. As he struggled to find the right words to respond, the woman reached out and placed a hand on his shoulder. Her touch was like a jolt of electricity, and he felt a sudden surge of energy flow through his body. "Do not be afraid, Zeru," she said. "God still has great plans for you. You were created for a purpose, and it is time for you to remember that." Her words echoed in his ears long after she disappeared. Zeru knew in his heart that the woman was sent from God to guide him back to the righteous path. He had ignored the small nudges and whispers from God for too long, but now it was time to listen. With newfound determination, Zeru began to seek out the truth. He read the scriptures, prayed and fasted, and spent time in solitude reflecting on his life. During this time of self-discovery, Zeru realized that he had been living a life of sin and had strayed far from the teachings of God. He had been consumed by his own selfish desires and had neglected his relationship with God. But now he was determined to change his ways and live a life that was pleasing to God. Zeru was drawn to a small church on the outskirts of town. It wasn't the grandest or most impressive-looking building, but it was here that he felt the presence of God the strongest. He started attending services regularly and soon became an active member of the church community. The pastor, a wise and compassionate man named Eli, took Zeru under his wing and provided guidance and support as he continued his journey of faith. As Zeru immersed himself in the teachings of God, he began to feel a sense of peace and fulfillment that he had never experienced before. He learned about forgiveness, love, and compassion, and he committed himself to living a life that reflected these values. But Zeru's transformation didn't go unnoticed. His former friends and colleagues began to take notice of the changes in him and were curious about what had caused such a drastic shift in his behavior. Some were supportive and encouraged Zeru to continue on his path. Others were skeptical and tried to pull him back into his old ways. Despite the mixed reactions, Zeru remained steadfast in his commitment to God. He knew that he had made a commitment to serve the Lord, and he wasn't going to let anything stand in his way. One day, Zeru was approached by one of his former colleagues, a man named Sammy, who had always been a source of trouble and negativity in Zeru's life. Sammy tried to convince Zeru to return to his old ways, promising that they would have a good time if he joined them. But Zeru politely declined, explaining that he was no longer interested in those activities. Enraged by Zeru's rejection, Sammy and his friends began to mock and jeer at him, taunting him for abandoning their friendship and the fun-filled lifestyle they had shared. They claimed that Zeru had become a religious fanatic and had lost his sense of humor and enjoyment in life. Zeru, however, remained calm and collected. Knowing that he had made the right decision, he continued to walk away from Sammy and his friends, ignoring their taunts and insults. As he walked, he felt a sense of peace and satisfaction knowing that he had chosen the path of righteousness. Meanwhile, Sammy and his friends continued to mock Zeru, but their laughter and jeers echoed emptily through the streets. They had no idea that their own lives were about to take a dark turn in the weeks that followed. Zeru's life continued to improve. He became a respected member of his church community and was known for his unwavering faith and dedication to helping others. He started a small ministry to help those who were struggling with addiction and sin, and he was able to guide many of them back to the path of righteousness. News of Zeru's good deeds spread throughout the city, and people from all walks of life began to seek him out for help. He became known as a man who had turned his life around and was living a life that was truly fulfilling and meaningful. On the other hand, Sammy and his friends began to experience the consequences of their actions. Their bad behavior caught up with them and they faced serious legal repercussions. Many of them ended up in jail, and their lives were forever changed. Zeru, however, remained steadfast in his commitment to God and continued to help others despite the challenges he faced. He knew that he had made a commitment to serve the Lord, and he wasn't going to let anything stand in his way. Years passed, and Zeru's reputation as a man of God continued to grow. He became known throughout the region for his unwavering faith and dedication to helping others. People from all over came to him for guidance and support, and he never turned anyone away. As Zeru looked back on his life, he knew that he had made the right decision when he chose to follow God's path. He had faced many challenges and temptations along the way, but he had never wavered in his commitment to God. And now he was being rewarded with a life that was filled with purpose, meaning and joy. Zeru's story is a powerful reminder that no matter how lost or broken we may feel, God still has plans for us. It can sometimes take us wandering in the wilderness to realize just how true that statement is. We may face opposition and persecution along the way, but as long as we stay committed to God, we will eventually find our way back to the righteous path. When we choose to follow God's plan for our lives, we may encounter challenges and difficulties, but ultimately we will be rewarded with a life that is filled with purpose, meaning and joy. So if you are feeling lost or uncertain about your future, remember that God still has great plans for you. Just take the time to seek Him out, listen to His guidance and trust in His plan for your life. With God's help, you can overcome any obstacle and achieve anything that you set your mind to. Thank you for watching. Please like and share this video if you enjoyed it and subscribe to see more videos like this in the future.